Hi, my name is Marc J. I am an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Maryland. I've been practicing since 1980, so I've been practicing for approximately 37 years. The areas of law that I concentrate in are personal injury, workers' compensation, and car accidents. Today we're going to be discussing the issue of why do I need an attorney in a workers' compensation claim? I want to start this discussion by explaining the following. First of all, often people don't even want to file a workers' comp claim, or if they do file one, they don't want to get a lawyer. Often the reasons are because they don't want to get their employer mad at them. Please be aware that every employer is required to have workers' comp insurance. And the way I look at it, it's no different than health insurance. If you were sick and had a cold or had to have surgery for something that wasn't caused by work, even though the employer paid for your health insurance, you'd have no problems going and using the health insurance. Workers' comp is the same thing. It's just like health insurance, except it's health insurance for work-related injuries. The employer has already paid for this in advance. Any claim that you made shouldn't in any way directly affect him because that's what he has insurance for. If he didn't have insurance, then obviously it will affect him, but they're required by law to have insurance, so you should have no reservations about filing a workers' comp claim. Also, people sometimes have a concern that if they file a claim or get a lawyer, that one of those two things is going to result in them getting fired. Maryland law says that an employee cannot be fired for filing a workers' comp claim. Typically, once it gets to the level of when the lawyer is involved in the case, the lawyer has no contact with the employer. His only contact is with the insurance company. They're not going to just go and report that back to the employer. Not sure why the employer would care that you had a lawyer anyway. Finally, I would point out to you in every workers' comp claim, the insurance company has a lawyer. If you don't have one, then you're going to be defenseless. So they'll have a lawyer, you'll have no lawyer. So you should get a lawyer. In fact, you should get one immediately. Often I hear complaints that I don't want to hire a lawyer, I can't afford it. Well, just so you know, the attorney's fee is not paid until the end of the case. And it's paid out of the settlement of your case, out of your permanent injury award or out of your settlement of your case. Nothing is paid before then. More often than not, people who don't get lawyers either don't get settlements or don't get permanent injury awards anyway. That's one. And secondly, client may think, well, if I'm going to get a settlement, I can do that on my own and avoid paying the lawyer. But I can tell you now that the chances are highly likely, I can almost guarantee it, that you'll get more money if you get a lawyer for your settlement or your permanent injury award than if you don't. I have access to doctors who are going to give ratings that are more fair compared to whoever the insurance company is using, or even if you use your own doctor. Your own doctor is going to minimize what your permanent injury is because he doesn't want to admit he failed. So it's important that you get a lawyer so he knows how to properly present your case and so that you maximize the amount of the award that you get as well as the benefits that you get. Since the fee doesn't come out until the end, there's no point to waiting till the end to get the lawyer because the fee is going to be the same whether you get the lawyer from day one or if you wait 4 years. The attorney fee is set by the commission. It's on a sliding scale. It starts at 20% of the permanent injury award. If there's no award, there's no fee. So you might as well get a lawyer up front. That way you will have someone to ask your questions to make sure your case goes properly. The other reason that you should get a lawyer is because workers' compensation is extremely complicated. It's not as simple as, hey, I was hurt on the job and the benefits are just going to come rolling in. It doesn't work that way. Insurance companies can be extremely difficult to deal with. Insurance adjusters can be difficult to deal with. They don't like paying benefits. They think it's somehow a negative to them. It makes them look bad if they pay too much. And they have a lot of things to do, or they're lazy. So they're not in a big hurry, even though you need to pay your bills. They don't really care whether you need to pay your bills. And even though you need treatment, they don't really care whether you need treatment or not. So they're not going to be actively involved in your case unless someone's there to keep on top of them. In addition, if you ever go to a workers' compensation hearing, you will find out that the first thing the commissioner will tell you is you need to get a lawyer. Now, you aren't legally required to have a lawyer, but the commissioner has advised you up front. Your case is complicated, that the insurance company has a lawyer, and that workers' comp is not simple, and there's many ins and outs to workers' comp that you would not be aware of, and that they are recommending that you get a lawyer. At that point, it's up to you whether you get one. If at that point you decide you want to get one, your case is going to be postponed, you're going to have to start over. So you might as well get one up front. Now, what is it that a lawyer can do that you can't do? Or what are the issues that are so complicated? The first one is we have to decide up front what kind of an injury is this. And the two types are, is it an accidental injury or is it an occupational disease? Accidental injury usually means that on a certain day, at a certain time, you were doing a certain activity, and right at a certain time you noticed that you hurt yourself. Either you tripped and fell, or you were lifting something and you hurt yourself. Those would be typical examples of accidental injury. The other type of workers' comp case is an occupational disease. Those are a little more complicated because you can't specifically point to a certain point in time or a certain activity that you were doing when you hurt yourself, but it was more of a gradual process over a long period of time. So if you work in a store as a clerk and your job is to scan items and you do the same hand action with your hand 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week for 4 years, and as a result of that you develop carpal tunnel in your hand, obviously you can't say on this date at this time my hand started hurting from that activity, but it's a more gradual process. Also with an occupational disease, the lawyer has to prove that it's inherent in the employment, meaning in the type of work you do, it's not uncommon for people to have the same injuries that you have. So, as you can see, that part of the case is complicated. In addition, we have to decide whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. If you're an independent contractor, you're not covered by workers' compensation unless you purchase your own. If you're an employee, you are covered. I have many cases where the people come in, they tell me they were hurt working for someone else, but they tell me they're independent contractors. They may even have signed papers saying they're independent contractors, but in fact, under Maryland law, they're actually employees. In order to be covered by workers' comp, you have to be an employee, and there's very strict definitions of who are employees and who are not. It gets into control and right to control the activities that you are. So those are issues that frequently come up. The next issue that comes up frequently is causal connection. Whether the injuries that you're complaining of or the medical conditions that you're complaining of are related to the work-related activity that you were doing and the accident that you had. The insurance company is going to do whatever they can to say that whatever you're complaining about is either due to some other accident you had, some other medical condition you had, or that there's nothing wrong with you. Or that while you may have injured yourself at work, it only lasted for some short period of time, and then whatever you're complaining about now is caused by some new thing or some aggravation of some old thing, or that there's nothing wrong with you. Or there's going to be issues about whether your treatment is necessary, meaning you have one doctor saying you need surgery, but the other one's saying you don't. They're going to have you seen by their doctors, and then there's going to be a fight about which doctor's correct and which one isn't. So issues regarding medical treatment, which is one of the main benefits you get under workers' comp, can be very difficult. Insurance companies don't like paying for medical expenses, and medical expenses can be the biggest part of your case. So they will fight like tooth and nail to try and limit the amount of medical treatment you have, and you need to have someone in your corner to advocate on your behalf to make sure that you get the medical treatment you're entitled to. In addition, the lawyer can help you find the appropriate doctors to provide the treatment. It can take a week or two or longer to get in to see a regular physician, and if you have to see a specialist like an orthopedic surgeon or a neurologist, or you have to have an MRI, it can take weeks or months to get in to see these particular doctors. Or a lot of doctors want the insurance company to approve a visit before they will see you, and the insurance company may not be willing to approve it for a variety of reasons. Either they don't have records, or they're still working on the case, or they haven't talked to the employer yet. Many reasons why they may not approve the treatment. If the doctor won't see you unless it's approved, then you're not going to get in. The lawyer can help you see doctors who will see you without the approval, or they can help coordinate getting the approval or getting the insurance company the records they need so you can get the approval. So for those reasons, in fact, if you need to see a specialist who would typically take months to see, the lawyer can usually get you in to see them within days because they have doctors that they deal with all the time. They know what doctors like to deal with workers' comp. Another problem you can have is you go see your doctor, but he doesn't like getting involved in litigation, accident cases, workers' comp. So he may not write in his report anything about the work-related injury and hope he can just bill your health insurance carrier. And then ultimately this is going to hurt you because when you go later to try and get treatment authorized, when your health insurance carrier figures out it's not related and they now refuse to pay the bills or bills they've paid, they reverse the charges, your medical reports are not going to have any mentions of your work-related injury because your doctor didn't want to get involved. So it's important to have doctors that don't mind getting involved. If your case has to go to court, it's important to have doctors that are willing to go to court. It's also important to have doctors who are willing to write a report that has what's required by the insurance companies and the Workers' Compensation Commission to be in the reports. Some doctors have no idea what should be in the report. Some doctors don't even know how to type or have secretaries, or they don't use them to type their notes, so you can't even read their notes, so those notes are worthless. When I say they don't know what to write in a report's got to have all of the same information every time, which is the history of what happened to you, how you hurt yourself, that it's work-related, what you told the doctor, what treatment he provided, that the treatment's related to the accident, and that whatever recommendation he's making is related to the accident, that the condition is related to the accident. And he has to be available to explain if the insurance company has you seen by someone why whatever he's saying is correct and whatever they're saying isn't correct. A lot of doctors don't want to do that, so it's important to go to the right doctors. It's important to have a lawyer because you want to make sure you get paid. While the insurance company, if they're smart, will authorize all your visits and will make sure you get paid immediately, hoping that you don't get a lawyer. More often than not, they don't care whether you get paid on time. They don't care if you have bills. So until they get the proper documentation, they may not pay you. A lot of times they'll say they sent you checks you don't receive. So you need a lawyer there to stay on top of the insurance company. The lawyer's going to know what documentation they need, and the lawyer's going to be able to deal with it if they don't pay you, meaning he's going to know how to get the case sent in for a hearing and go to court with you. If you wait until the problem comes up, meaning you treat for a while, let's say you treat 6 months, everything's going smoothly, the insurance company then decides they're spending too much money on the case and they don't want to pay for anything else, you get a lawyer then. Well, at that point you need immediate relief, but you're not going to get it because the lawyer needs to gather all the records and find out what's going on. Sometimes it can take weeks or months to get the records, so you're just going to put yourself further in a hole. In the meantime, you have bills to pay or treatment that you need. So it's important that you get someone up front. In addition, the lawyer, especially if they've been experienced, is used to a way medical treatment goes in a certain case, and also sometimes can pick out things that the doctors may not notice with regard to what problems you're having. I've had many a case where the doctor is saying there's one thing wrong, but from what the client's complaining about, it sounds like it might be something else, and then I'll make a referral to someone else, and then lo and behold, it turns out the doctor was going down the wrong path, and he should be going down the path that my new doctor has recommended. And those, even though the client's treated with the other doctor for a long period of time and hasn't gotten better, they now go to the doctor I've suggested. Turns out what I thought was going on, in fact, was going on, and now the client's getting better. In addition, I all know, who the different doctors are. So you may be going to a doctor who's terrible, but you don't know that. You don't know him from Adam. Maybe your employer referred you there. Maybe the insurance company referred you there. And he may be horrible. That would be something that an experienced workers' compensation lawyer will know. I also know which doctors the Workers' Comp Commission believes and which ones they don't believe. And obviously that's important, because if you're going to a doctor but we're going in front of a commissioner who hates your doctor, then that's not going to be real helpful. And that's something I would know from experience. There are statute of limitations issues in workers' comp cases, meaning a claim must be filed within 2 years, and if you don't file the actual claim with the Workers' Compensation Commission in writing within that 2-year period, then your claim may be barred. There's oftentimes, I talk to clients who have waited a while who say, oh yeah, I filed a claim, but the only claim they filed was with the insurance company. They never filed the claim with the Workers' Comp Commission. 2 years goes by, the insurance company says, you know what, we're done paying for anything. And at that point you're stuck because you can't file the claim once 2 years runs, although there are certain exceptions to that the lawyer may be able to help you with also. So it's important to get the claim filed with the commission immediately. Issues about how the accident happened and where the accident happened and when the accident happened are extremely important in a workers' comp case. The accident has to arise out of and in the course of the employment. On my website, you'll see that I have a section called, Can You Believe This Is Covered by Workers' Compensation? There are lots of injuries that you wouldn't even think are covered by workers' comp because they didn't happen while you were at work that still are covered. So anytime you think it's in any way related to work, even if you're not at work when it happens, you should call the lawyer to have a consultation to figure out if it's covered or not. Arising out of the employment means that but for the employment, the injury wouldn't have happened. I'll give you an example of some of those. Let's say you're on a company picnic, all right? Everybody's there, you're playing softball, and you get hit with the ball or you slide into first and you tear your knee up. That would be covered as a workers' comp claim because but for the employment, you would not have been at the softball game. Let's say you were on a trip for the company and they send you to Paris and you were there for a seminar, and you go to the seminar and then you go out to dinner later that night while you're in Paris and you trip and fall in the parking lot and herniate a disc in your back or something. That again would be covered by workers' comp, but for the employment, you wouldn't have been there in the first place. Suppose you work all day, but you're going to lunch. Maybe that would be covered, especially would be covered if you're on the company premises at the time. Sometimes even if you're not on the company premises, it's covered. So those issues come up all the time. In addition, it has to be in the course of your employment, meaning were you at work at the time or were you somewhere else? Were you on your way home? If you're driving to and from work, it's not normally covered, but there's exceptions to that also. Suppose you were called in specifically for a special errand on that particular day on a Saturday when you normally don't work, and you're driving to work, haven't gotten to work, and then you get hurt. That would be covered. On the other hand, if you're driving to work Monday through Friday and you're always there on Monday through Friday and you have an accident, that wouldn't be covered. So there's lots of little nuances that you need to look at when deciding that. There's something called idiopathic injuries. Let's say you have a heart attack, you're at work. Is that covered? Well, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Let's say you have a heart attack while you're standing on a ladder at work and you fall to the ground and bust your head open. Well, that would be covered because the work has put you in a position of danger. On the other hand, let's say you have a heart attack when you're at work and you just fall to the ground and you hurt yourself. More likely than not, that may not be covered, although you should certainly consult with the lawyer because the employer didn't put you in any position of danger. What other benefits are you entitled to? Well, you're entitled to temporary total benefits, meaning you get paid while you're off, 2/3 of your pay. The lawyer can help determine what the 2/3 is. Sometimes the insurance companies try and stack. Normally they're supposed to look at the 14 weeks before the accident, but suppose you didn't work 14 weeks. Suppose you only worked 7, but the insurance company adds the 7 and then divides by 14 to come up with your average weekly wage. I've seen that done. Or let's say you missed a couple weeks because they didn't have work. I've seen that averaged in. So your lawyer needs to be there to figure out what gets counted and what doesn't in order to calculate your average weekly wage. In addition, you get paid till you reach maximum medical improvement. The insurance company's going to be in a big hurry to have their doctor, if your doctor doesn't release you quickly, to have their doctor say you're fine or the treatment isn't helping, you're at maximum medical improvement. So your lawyer is there to regulate that, and then if the parties can't resolve it, go to a hearing to figure out if you're at maximum medical improvement. In the meantime, you're sitting there with no benefits. If you wait till they cut your benefits off, it's really going to delay things. It already takes months to get a hearing. If the lawyer then adds months in order to gather records, it's just going to put you really behind the 8 ball. At the next step is, if you're not able to go back to the type of work you were doing, you are going to be entitled to vocational rehabilitation, which is either job placement or actually training. It can involve going back to school. The lawyer can help decide which ones are appropriate in your case. The lawyer can actually help decide who's going to be the vocational counselor that's going to work in your case. I have counselors that I've worked with over the years who are great. I've had counselors who are horrible. I've been in court and I've seen the counselors that are great and horrible. So I'm going to know which counselors are going to be able to help you and which ones are not. I'm going to know the counselor that's going to work for the insurance company and the one that's going to work for you. I'm going to know the counselor that's going to let you slide if you screwed up on a day versus the counselor who's going to look to nail you against the wall if you look at him funny. So obviously we can be extremely helpful with that. If the insurance company decides that job placement's going on too long and they cut you off, you're going to need a lawyer to go to a hearing to try and get that extended. I can usually get those hearings within a week or two. You would have difficulty doing that on your own. I can also make sure that you understand the vocational rehabilitation process up front so that you don't screw up. At the end of your case, after all of this is done, your treatment's over, and you've gotten paid for all the time you missed, you can get a permanent injury award. Normally people who don't have lawyers don't even know that, and they don't even get that. And they don't obtain those benefits. I can help you maximize the amount of benefits you get. Now, as part of that process, you have to get a rating. I have doctors that I use who I know are going to give you more favorable ratings because they're going to take into consideration everything they can to give you the benefit of the doubt. The insurance company has doctors who are going to do the exact opposite and either say you're fine and you have zero disability or minimize the amount of disability you have. So if you only rely on whatever the insurance company has, you're just going to get a smaller settlement. If you rely on your family physician, chances are you're going to get a smaller settlement on your treating physician because they don't like to admit that you're still having problems or that you're worse off than you are, so they're going to give you a relatively low rating. I can offset that by getting a doctor who is going to give the true evaluation of your disability. That way, when we go in for a hearing and the commissioner's looking at one rating's high, one's low, and they find something in between, the chances are the in-between is going to be a lot higher than if you didn't have a lawyer. That alone would justify getting a lawyer. In addition, because the fee is a percentage of whatever that permanent injury award is, since your award's going to be higher, even with the percentage, you're more likely, hopefully, to get more than you would if you didn't have a lawyer. In addition, you will have received all of the services from the beginning. You will be able to ask the lawyer questions. You'll make sure the case is going properly. You will have gotten proper treatment. You will have gotten paid. If you don't get any of these services you're supposed to get, the lawyer can go to court for you. The fee's no different whether he goes to court for you or everything goes smoothly. So you might as well get a lawyer up front. One other thing that the lawyer can do for you that clients don't know about, there's something called the subsequent injury fund. So people who at least know that they're entitled to get some sort of a settlement or permanent injury award in the case often are unaware of the fact that they can sometimes get paid for prior problems that they had that are have absolutely nothing to do with their case. So let's take it for instance, you're involved in a work-related injury, you have a back injury, you have surgery, and now you have permanent problems with your back. But before the accident, you had diabetes, you had surgery on your shoulder before the accident, and you were born with, three feet. And you had other medical conditions that you've had long-standing, and that these conditions have affected your ability to work in the past and continue to do so, but you were able to do your job and do the requirements of your job until now you can't do it anymore because you've now hurt your back at work. Workers' comp takes that into consideration so that if as a result of the accident you have at least a 25% disability, so in this situation a 25% disability to your back, which the commissioner would determine. And if he also determines that before the accident, because of the problems you had with your shoulder, your diabetes, and whatever else you were born with, or whatever medical conditions, maybe it was a prior work-related injury, maybe it was a prior auto accident, whatever those are, if those total up to 25%, so you have both tiers, 25 from the accident, 25% pre-existing, then not only can you get money from the accident, but you can also get money for the prior problems that you have. I like to call this free money because it's stuff the client would have never figured out. So it's important to have a lawyer for that. Finally, you're entitled to mileage for any trips to the doctor. So you should keep a log of the date you went to the doctor, the name of the doctor, and how many miles it was. Typically what I tell clients to do is to MapQuest the doctor and then get a itemized bill from the doctor showing the dates you went there, because when the paperwork is sent to the insurance company, that's what they're going to do if you haven't already done it. If you haven't done it, they're probably going to stick it on the bottom of the pile because it's going to take them hours to gather these records. But if you in advance have given them an itemized bill that shows every date you went to the doctor, and have given them a MapQuest that shows how many miles it is from your house, and then you've provided them an itemization of every day you went to every doctor, the date you went, the mileage, and if you went to the doctor 14 times, him listed 14 times with the date and the mileage, and then add the mileage at the bottom, the chances are you'll get paid within 30 days. For all of those reasons, that's why everyone who has a workers' comp case should get a lawyer. Again, my name is Marc J. My address is 6 East Mulberry Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21202. My phone number is 410-752-4878. My 800 number is 800-749-4878. My email address is matis@atislaw.com. That's M-A-T as in Tom, A-S as in Sam, @atislaw. Law is like lawyer, law is Law.com. Thank you.